Criticism is to literature what science is to nature. A great critic has said that poetry is silent, only criticism speaks. What does he mean? Poetry is wrapped in silence. Its meanings can be understood only with the help of criticism. It is criticism which coaxes poetry to speak and reveal its secrets. There is a Tamil poem which says, சொல்லென்றும் பொருளென்றும் இசை என்றும் இல்லை, சொல்லாத சொல்லுக்கு விலையேதுமில்லை. I would like to say that in literature, words try to communicate something very difficult. But criticism tries to make it simple for other people. கவிதை தன்னுடைய அரிய சொற்களால் சொல்ல முடியாதவற்றை சொல்ல தவிக்கிறது. ஆனால் திறனாய்வு அதையே தன்னுடைய எளிய சொற்களால் சொல்லிவிட முடியும் என்று நடிக்கிறது. கவிதை ஒரு துடிப்பு, திறனாய்வு ஒரு நடிப்பு. Criticism is an imitation of imitation. How does it do that? Every work of art has 4 dimensions. It is made up of words. It is related to the world. It comes from a creative writer and it goes to the reader. So a work of art has 4 orientations. Orientation towards the world. Orientation towards the word. Orientation towards the writer. Orientation towards the reader. If the criticism is oriented towards the world, it tries to illuminate the world through the work of art. This kind of criticism is called mimetic criticism. The other type is called objective criticism. It looks at the work of art as an object. Its focus is on the work of art and not on the world. But the third dimension is we can look at the work of art from the point of view of the creator's life, his personality, his problems and all that. This approach is called, this orientation called expressive. But ultimately it is made meaningful only by the reader. The reader-oriented criticism is called pragmatic criticism. So, there are 4 orientations: mimetic, expressive, objective, and pragmatic. Aristotle, the great Greek critic, was a mimetic as well as a pragmatic critic, because he said that tragedy is an imitation of action. But ultimately, it results in the purification of the emotions of the reader. So he is concerned both with what poetry imitates and how it affects the reader. But people like Wordsworth are expressive critics. The romantic critics are expressive critics because they focus on the mind of the poet. It is the poet's creative imagination that is very important to them. And this is called expressive approach to literary criticism. Coleridge, who was his great friend and contemporary, was an expressive critic. But the third approach is the orientation is very important. It is called objective because it does not care for the poem. It cares for the poem. This is very important. Let us not worry about the poet. Let us think of the poem. Because ultimately, the life of the poet is not so important as the life of the poem. So we must look at the poem, its form, its structure, the way in which words are organized, and the way in which words clash with each other and create meaning. So this is called formalistic approach or the objective-oriented approach to literature. The formalistic approach is very important in the 20th century. There was a school of critics called the New Critical School. These people said, let us not worry about the cello. Let us listen to the tale and not the cello. There are people like Clive Brooks, even T.S. Eliot, Ransom. They said, what we should do is to analyze the work of art, the way in which the words are organized. And they gave importance to the language of poetry. And people like Clive Brooks said that the language of poetry is the language of paradox. Poetry does not simply state things. Poetry states things through puns, through irony, through a kind of complexity, through its structure and texture. It creates its own world. Our world is brazen. The poet's world is gold. How does the brazen world become the golden world? How does the raw emotion of the poet becomes the poetic universal emotion? By the structure and the texture of the poem. And therefore the purpose of criticism is to analyze its structure and show how words are organized. And to Clive Brooks, paradox is the important key to the understanding of poetry. For example, the great poem by John Keats, The Ode on a Grecian Earth, according to him, is full of paradoxes. It talks about a maid, an unravished maid, a silent, unravished maid, but its very silence speaks. How does it speak? The earth speaks. And throughout the poem, the poet is building contrasts, but ultimately the contrasts are reconciled, and he says, beauty is truth, truth, beauty, and that is all you know and all you must know. What does that mean? The final part of the poem sums up the meaning of the poem in a paradox. What's a paradox? Poetry is silent, but it still speaks. It tries to speak truth, but it is not truth. Truth becomes beauty. This is very important. So he says, there is no contrast between truth and beauty. Truth is beauty, and beauty is truth. What does it mean? Truth is logical. Truth is intellectual. But beauty is visual, creative, and emotional. And what does this poem mean? What it means is the logical truth is not the great truth. The real truth is the creative truth, the beautiful truth, which the poet tries to create through his words. So what you perceive as beauty is truth. And what you perceive as truth is beauty. This is very important. The second part means whatever is normally seen as truth is beautiful. Everything is beautiful. This is very important. Many people think that there are only a few things like the lovely rose or the rainbow or the dew dancing in the flower. Such things are beautiful, but to a great poet, even suffering is beautiful. Sorrow is beautiful. Nothing is ugly. Everything is beautiful when it is created by the poet. To the poet, everything is beautiful. Nothing is ugly. Even sorrow and suffering are beautiful. Reality is beauty. Reality is the enduring beauty. There's a great Tamil poet, Bharatidasan, who said, பசையுள்ள புள்ளிலெல்லாம் பசையவள்கார் என்றும் பழமையினால் சாகாத இளையவள்கார் நசையோடு நோக்கடா எங்கும் உள்ளார் நல்லழகு வசப்பட்டால் துன்பமில்லை. That's what does he mean? If you succumb to the charms of beauty, there is no sorrow. So that is what the great paradox of Keats's poem tries to communicate. There is no dichotomy between truth and beauty. So what we perceive as beauty is truth. And truth becomes always beautiful through creative imagination. So this is the formalistic approach to criticism. But there are critics who say that the formalistic critics ignore the social pressures of life. Poetry should not be an escape from life. Poetry is only an embodiment of life. So people like Marx and the critics based on Marx, they say criticism must reflect the social contradiction. To Marx, being determines consciousness. To Hegel, the great philosopher, consciousness comes first. Karl Marx said, no, it is life that is most important. Being that is most important. It is not the mind that determines the world. It is the world that determines the mind. So according to the Marxist critics, we must see how the social realities and contradictions are perceived in a work of art. In fact, Bernard Shaw is criticized by Marxist critics because his work of art does not respond to the rhythms of life. The strange, irregular rhythms of life are not heard in Bernard Shaw. In Bernard Shaw, what matters is the mind and not the world. And therefore, his characters are lifeless. They do not evolve in relation to the world, like Shakespeare's characters. And another group of sociological critics are feminist critics. They are very popular today. Feminism is an important critical approach to literature. What do the feminists want to do and what do they do? According to feminists, all literature so far has been man-oriented. And it has suppressed the voice of women. And feminist criticism wants to listen to the silenced woman, the woman who has been silenced throughout history. So this is very important. For example, even the great Tamil poet, Ilangovadigal, I would call him the first poet who made women speak powerfully. Even Kannagi was silent all the time in the beginning, ultimately breaks her silence. And her voice is heard not only in the palace, as the entire city. And feminist critics say women must write their body. Men are dominated by the mind, and women give importance to the body. And even in Chellappan we find Ilangovadigal makes Kannagi speak through her body. When she wrenches her breast and throws it in the city, she is making her body speak. And this is the most important thing according to the feminists. In women's writing or feminist writing, we find the language of the body and not the language of the mind. And accordingly, the language is more emotional and not simply logical. And even among the feminist critics, some of them have a psychological orientation. And what they want to do is to look at the psychology of women. According to Freud, women have a different psychological makeup. In women, there is a different kind of mental makeup. And when you look at the literature from the feminist point of view, we should be concerned the women's psychological problems. Feminist criticism can have psychological orientation, biological orientation, linguistic orientation, and above all, cultural orientation. Already I spoke about the cultural, already I spoke about the biological and psychological orientation. Of course, all this thing is revealed through the language, and when you look at the language, it becomes a linguistic orientation. But what's most important is the cultural orientation in feminist criticism. Because ultimately, women have been suppressed because of culture. Each culture has a way of oppressing and repressing women. Somebody said, the Marxists look at the oppression and the British people look at the repression, and the American critics look at the expression. Oppression, repression, and expression. All these things do matter. Ultimately, they are related to the cultural framework in which the girls have been brought up, and right from those early days, they have been asked to speak only the language of men. They have been asked to internalize the values of the patriarchal society. And they have, in fact, they have lost their own tongue. What we call the mother tongue is normally the father's tongue, because they have been asked to speak only the father's tongue. So what the feminist critics say, we must make women speak their own language, their own body language. And these things can be done only if they protest against the culture. Here is a beautiful poem from a Pakistani woman writer. The title of the poem is I Am Not That Woman. I'll read the poem. I am not that woman selling you socks and shoes. Remember me, I am the one you hid in your walls of stone, while you roamed free as the breeze, not knowing that my voice cannot be smothered by stone. I am the one you crushed with the weight of custom and tradition, not knowing that light cannot be hidden in darkness. Remember me, I am made the one in whose lap you picked flowers and planted thorns and embers, not knowing that chains cannot smother my fragrance. I am the woman whom you bought and sold in the name of my own chastity, not knowing that I can walk on water when I am drowned. There are two more stanzas, I'll come to that later. Here is a woman who claims her own identity. I am not that woman. She is trying to distinguish herself from the consumer-oriented woman, the woman who is selling socks and shoes. The woman herself becomes an object. This is the tragedy of the consumerist society. Women have become objects, but they must become subjects. And I'm not that one. You hid myself in walls of stone, but you imprisoned me in the walls of stone, but you became free like the breeze. But my voice cannot be smothered by stone. The woman says, you crushed me with the weight of custom and tradition. And you tried to hide me in darkness. But please know this, light cannot be hidden in darkness. And no chain can smother my fragrance. The third stanza says, I am the woman you bought and sold. Woman becomes a commodity. A commodity bought and sold in the name of my own chastity. But I can walk on water when I am drowning. You easily crush me and I will be free. I am the one you married off to get rid of a burden, not knowing that a nation of captive minds cannot be free. It's a beautiful assertion. You married me off to get rid of a burden, but you did not know that a nation of captive minds cannot be free. Here is an echo of Shelley. Can man be free if woman be a slave? The poet Bharatidasan also says, பெண்ணடிமை தீருமட்டும் பேசும் திருநாட்டில் மண்ணடிமை தீருவது உயர்கொம்பே. This is what I. A nation of captive minds cannot be free. A nation can be free only if the mind is free. The minds are free. So that is how this woman has communicated her protest against the backdrop of her culture. This is an excellent example of a feminist poem. And if you look at this poem from this cultural point of view, it is feminist criticism. Finally, I come to a very important approach to criticism. This is reader-oriented. This is text-oriented. This is called deconstructive criticism. This is associated with the great French philosopher Derrida. Derrida says, all the time literature has tried to communicate something already known. But in a good work of art, there is no meaning which is already there. The meaning is not something that can be carried. The meaning is something that can be only suggested. How? The words do not have fixed meanings. In fact, the words have no meaning. The words are not carrying means. The words are in search of meaning. இந்த தமிழ் சொல்றாங்க, சொற்கள் அர்த்தங்களை சுமந்து கொண்டு தெரியவில்லை, அர்த்தங்களை தேடிக்கொண்டு தெரிகின்றன. அர்த்தங்களை தேடுவதுதான் கவிதை, அர்த்தங்களை தேடி பிடிப்பதுதான் திறனாய். That is what deconstructive criticism tries to do with a poem like this. There is a well-known simple poem by Wordsworth called A Slumber Did My Spirit See. The first line itself is that, a slumber did my spirit see. I had no human fears. She seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthly ears. No motion has she now, no force. She neither hears nor sees. Rolled round in earth's diurnal course, with rocks and stones and trees. This is a poem about, they say, his lover, Lucy Gray. She is dead. She is supposed to be a child, a virgin, a child dead. It is about the dead virgin child. Now look at the poem again. A slumber did my spirit see. I had no human fears. The poet talks about himself in the first stanza, first two lines, and the next two lines he talks about the person, the other person, she. There is a contrast between I and she. And in the third line, she seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthly ears. there seems to be a contrast between the poet and the girl. But there is also a similarity between the poet and the girl. The girl is dead. The poet is asleep. All great poetry tries to connect death with sleep. And therefore, he is also almost dead. I slept. A slumber did my spirit see. I had no human fears. That's the thing. When I am asleep, I had no human fears. I may have something more than human, but I am free from the. Similarly, this girl also looked like a thing. She seemed a thing that could not feel. Right? So she is almost like the poet, but she is more profoundly asleep. Therefore, she could not feel the touch of earthly ears. That's a very beautiful line. She is beyond the touch of what? Of time. She is dead, and therefore she is beyond time. Death cannot touch her. The touch of earthly ears. Here, the poet is combining time and space. Space and time. Long before Einstein, Wordsworth seems to have connected space and time, and he says, the touch of earthly ears. You see, earth is space, earth is time. And because of the rotation of earth, there is time. And this touch of earthly ears. The word touch is very significant because only the earth can touch and not time. So the touch of earthly ears could not be felt by that virgin who is dead. In the second stanza, no motion has she now, no force. She neither hears nor sees. He repeats what he said in the first stanza, but with a difference. In the second stanza, there is a change in sense, in time, in tense. What's the tense? In the first stanza, past, had, seemed, but in the second stanza, has, she neither sees nor hears. So, there is a movement from the past to the present. So, why? What does it mean? The same word, now he says, in the present tense. She neither hears nor sees. Why? He wants to say, she is dead but not dead. She is in the eternal present. She is alive. She neither hears nor sees. Rolled round in earth's diurnal course. She has become part of earth. She is rotating with the rotating earth. Because she is rotating with the rotating earth, that means in earth's diurnal course, in earth's regular course, she is rotating with what? With rocks and stones and trees. No, she is part of the cosmos. She is part of the universe. She is part of the rocks and stones and trees. You see, in one sense, she is not there anywhere. In another sense, she is with everything. She is with the stone. She is with the trees. She is with the rocks. She is part of the rock. She is part of, so this is the thing. She is dead, but she's alive. She is not there anywhere, but she is there everywhere. The poem thus shows through a contrast, through a paradox, through an unresolved paradox. The poem tries to say that Lucy is dead and alive. She is beyond time, but she is part of time. She is beyond yet, she is part of yet. So this sort of contradiction must be brought out by a critic, and that is what is called deconstructive criticism. It does not reduce anything to a fixed meaning, to a frozen meaning. It tries to show that the meaning is not static, it is dynamic. That the meaning is not a product, that the meaning is a process. And good poetry always tries to go beyond the existing meaning and tries to create an ever-growing meaning. That is the approach of deconstructive criticism. Thank you.